Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Anne Alvares, parent coach, school counselor, and mother of two. Do you sometimes struggle with your parenting role? Do you notice that sometimes you're repeating patterns that you learned in your own childhood? Maybe you are carrying childhood pain that has not been healed, and you notice that it is showing up in your parenting with your own children. Perhaps you yell or get frustrated easily. Maybe you are directing them or telling them what to do all the time, and you notice that your actions are affecting your relationship with your children. Well, parents, I totally understand this. I came from childhood pain and I learned how to be a relational parent with my children. And I can teach this to you as well. This podcast is all about learning how to heal the childhood pain that we are carrying so that we can foster healthy relationships with our kids. Join us every week for a new show, and we will dive into the healing and the fostering of healthy relationships with our children. Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast and YouTube channel. I'm super excited. I have a special guest today. Her name is Sorcha Newby. She is a psychological researcher and university lecturer whose explores how social media impacts children's well-being, particularly sleep, anxiety, and emotional development in 10 to 12-year-olds. Her research highlights the shortcomings of current social media policies in protecting young users. Alongside lecturing in psychology, Sorcha is committed to empowering parents with knowledge and practical tools to navigate the digital world confidently. As a mother of two, she brings forth academic expertise and lived experience to help families build healthier digital habits. Welcome, Sorcha. Wow,
Thanks.
this is a hot topic, right? This is a hot topic. I hear from a lot of parents. My child's addicted to his games or his phone or something like that, right? So,
Yeah.
we're going to help parents today. Okay, let's talk about how did you come into this work on social media and children?
Yeah. It's a very interesting one. I've worked with children for over 10 years in many different settings here in the UK. And I volunteered when I was a lot younger at a charity that helps teach children between the ages of 10 to sort of pre-teen 12s, how to be safe online. Everybody's online now, even children, even younger than that. And they would come up to me and tell me stories of their experiences, things they've seen online that raise alarm bells. Things like, grooming, things like cyberbullying, they're all involved with. And they don't know what the terms are, they don't know the name of it, but they can understand the feeling. So they'd come and tell me, and I was in shock. I couldn't believe how often it happens. And it's something that I was studying at the time at university. And I thought, this needs looking at, this needs addressing. So I did my dissertation on how social media use sort of impacts their anxiety, because that's what I could see the real impact was. They were really anxious, and also sort of their sleep. They'd say they'd get no sleep, and I've been up all night scrolling. And I thought, wow. So I started looking at that, and I found a really strong correlation between the more they use social media, the less sleep they get, the less sleep quality, and also higher levels of anxiety. Things like fear of missing out, all of that is like exponentially raised because they're spending more time online. Now, that all happened, and I started seeing this sort of who's to blame? So, is it the children? Obviously not. Is it something like the teachers should be aware of and teaching the children at schools? But I sort of directed my gaze towards the actual social media companies themselves, and the policies they hold were not substantial for protecting children. So that's sort of
Wow.
where I saw it firsthand, right? So I've continued now throughout my PhD and my speaking and lecturing and just raising awareness about it.
Wow, that's amazing information there. So basically, are you saying like exposure to all kinds of social media, or are like because there's social media in their gaming, right? They have a chat system for their games as well, right?
Mm.
And are you saying that uh they are exposed like too much at those ages, 8, 10 to 12?
Yeah, I think it's a case of they are exposed too much to this sort of thing where it starts to sort of rewire their brain. So they start to develop differently to how maybe you and me developed and people without this technology growing up. Yeah, and in you, like you said, in gaming, there's the chat functions, they can talk to each other. So it is a social media. And I think that sometimes that goes under the radar because it's, a gaming software, right?
Right. Right. Okay. All right. So, and you're saying primarily the problem is sleep, lack of sleep, because it affects their rhythm, right? Circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
Um, so it affects their sleeping and it causes anxiety, right? Um,
Yeah.
is it because of just being on all the time? Like, is there what's happening to cause the anxiety?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting one because you tend to think, well, it must be just the amount of time they're on there. So it's screen time, the longer they're on it, the more anxious they'll be. And yeah, that is the case. But it's not just that. It's sort of the more like experience they have with sort of delaying their sleep. So the longer they're on it, you get this sort of reduced concentration. You can get things like, low, in some cases, like low self-esteem as well, because, especially in children who use social media without any like guidance or boundaries. And it's essentially just because their brains are still developing, they're really vulnerable to those effects, as opposed to an adult who might have those tools to regulate themselves a little bit better. Um, but again, it's not all negative. It's kind of sort of when you use it in moderation and mindfully, they can be really good things. They can foster, connection and creativity and things like that. And it's just about learning that. And the key is really like how they're using social media, sort of when they're using it, and with what support. So it's more than just screen time.
Okay, okay, good. Let's get into how we advise parents then. What would you suggest for parents when they're navigating their children's social media?
Yeah. It's a really tough one. And, I've got two little boys, so they're not on social media yet. This is
Mhm,
coming to me. But
mhm,
I've
mhm.
seen it many times where I just encourage parents to sort of encourage this balance of three things specifically. So, like connection, boundaries is a really big one, and just education. So, those are the three things that I always tend to tell parents that are worried that come to me with questions. So, with connection, you want to start with these like open conversations with your child, right? So rather than you can't use social media, we're banning it. You want to ask the child themselves, what do you enjoy about social media? What have you seen lately that's made you laugh? And just build that trust with them and sort of enhance that curiosity with them so you become the person they can come to speak to and trust about it. And then again, setting boundaries is a really big one, like I said. So really setting clear limits on screen time. So for example, maybe if you're having a dinner at home, I know it's really common for the child to sort of be on their phone. The parents might be on their phone. And
Yes.
even if it's once a week where you go, right, screen free dinner time tonight, guys, and you just try and stick to that. And also, especially before bed as well, is another big one. As I mentioned, the research does say more use of screen time before you go to sleep does affect that sort of your circadian rhythm. It makes you feel like it's actually daytime when it's not. It's nighttime. You need to be winding down. Um, Keeping the phones out of the bedroom is another big one. Some parents use and find is really practical and really easy to implement, depending on the age of the child, I would say. And just establish those tech-free times. Like I said, just really helps navigate that and set those boundaries. Um, and then in all, education is key. Like knowledge is power. Um,
Mhm.
Teaching them sort of to question what they see on social media, because unfortunately, they see things and they think it's real. They'll see
Yes.
something and be like, oh, that's happening. That must be, even like with the AI boom now, like you don't know what's real. So getting them to question it is really important. Is it edited? What do they think they're being shown in that video? Talk to me about it. And it's those little small reflections that will help build that thing we call digital resilience. So that's key.
Yes. Yes. Wow, great. Okay, those are great, great, helpful tips. Do you also suggest that parents delay using social media, like so that it's age appropriate? Like at what age do you think? I know it depends on the child because every child's different and you know your child best, right? Like if the maturity level is there or if it's not, right? But generally speaking, do you believe in delaying like screens with children until a certain age?
Yes, in short, I would try and, implement that where social media companies themselves say children under 13 shouldn't really be on the app, but that's not the case. So I would try and push it to as late as you can. You've got to consider, yeah, every family has a different situation. It might be a case where there's really harsh peer pressure at the school, maybe where they're at, and their friends are on social media. So, why can't I be on it, mom or dad, or whoever?
Exactly.
So it's hard, but yeah, if
Yeah.
you can, try to delay as much as possible. And the reason for that isn't just because, we know it's better for them, yes, but it's actually biological. So their brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is right there at the front, that develops way later on in life. Like
Yes.
25 is where it fully develops at the age of
Yes.
25. So that's the sort of critical thinking area of the brain where if that's not developed enough and you see something sort of traumatic online, maybe you see something that's really scary or really funny even, but it's not true, children don't really have the ability to critically analyze it, to question it. So if you can delay that and help their brain develop naturally without this sort of short form content, scary stuff, then it
Yes.
will be better for them in the long term.
Yes, yes, I agree. I have two kids. One's 25 and one's 15. And with the 25-year-old, we didn't have this issue. But I did get him a phone at maybe 11 years old, maybe 10. But I got it for me so that I could keep track of him, right? And find him after school. I gave him a lot of freedom after school, but I wanted him to have a phone so that I could get in contact with him. But the youngest, we also delayed though his phone. I think he got a phone maybe at 10 or 11. Um, but with that, when he started to get into gaming, which was around 11 or 12, um, we really educated him on not sharing personal information. There are predators, online predators. He was actually surprised. He's like, why would adults pretend they're kids? And I said, there are adults that prey on children. So he understood at a young age the danger. It's like even before the digital age, we protect our kids from danger by saying, don't talk to every stranger, make sure that you're checking around yourself, those kinds of things. So we did that with him. He's very, very good about not sharing personal information and
Mhm.
knowing the people that he's playing the games with.
Yeah,
For the
yeah.
most part, they're mainly his friend group, right? And I think
Mm.
you can add people or get people out, things like that. So he's very, very aware of that. So I would suggest to parents the same. I would say you need to get into their world and you need to teach them
Mm.
that the online world is not safe.
Yeah.
Uh, and so the information that they share is private. They should not be sharing private information, where they live, their real name, those kinds of things. So I think that that will help to protect
Yeah.
our
Absolutely.
children, right?
Yeah, of course. It's brilliant. It's that education and getting down on their level. Because I think
Yeah.
sometimes children would feel, well, you're my mom, you're my dad. What do you know about gaming and what do you know?
Yeah,
But showing that you know that and showing that you're actually willing to learn from them too helps them build that trust with you in that way.
exactly. And you
Yeah.
got to start it young. Don't start it when they're teens. When they're teens, they're not going to want to tell you anything. But when they're like 10, 11, they are willing to tell you. You can be like, "What game are you playing? Can I see? What does it look like?" Right? Like, what's the
That
object of the game, right? Like, like get into it. Ask them about it. Okay.
yeah.
Can social media create addiction? Can there be a digital addiction with kids?
Absolutely, absolutely, especially in younger users, actually. Um, that, like I mentioned, the platforms themselves are designed to sort of keep us scrolling, right? So if you're thinking about apps like TikTok and Snapchat and things like that, even Snapchat has like a scrolly feature. You can scroll through stories, you can all sorts. And it's the thing called dopamine driven feedback loops, which sounds like a really long thing, but it's just keeping your brain chemistry locked in to finding that dopamine, finding that happiness, and scrolling through constantly. And things like likes, notifications, even that pop up on your phone, sort of these recommendations you get. You might like this, so watch this video. They're all like rewarding our attention basically, and it makes it really hard to stop. And I can speak from experience too. I find myself scrolling, and when I do, I realize, whoa, okay, I know what I'm doing here.
Hours pass by.
I'm like,
Hours have passed by.
exactly, it's bedtime now. I need to stop, go to sleep. So that's how I saw it in myself. I was like, right, no, it's so easily to become addicted to it. So for adults, so definitely for children. And the reason why essentially is because children have this, they don't have much control with their impulses, as we know, right? So they'll just act on what feels good in the moment more than an adult would. So that self-regulation and all that, it's all still developing, and it just becomes really hard for them. Um, they might find themselves just bored, and it might start off boredom scrolling, and they just like don't know what else to do, maybe. But
Yes.
that's what can easily turn into that compulsive use, where they find that their mood depends on it. They might find that they actually get really distressed when you take it away as well, and that's when you think about addiction, that's like one of the key signs of like withdrawal, right? So
Yes.
that's why it's really important to, like you said, put those boundaries in place really early. So not just, yeah, time limits, just like content limits, like what they're actually
Yes.
watching, and also
Mhm.
having those emotional check-ins are just so important. And if your child is using social media to avoid feelings or like to fill a void that they might have, then that's where the extra support comes in from you and their peers as well. So yeah.
Yes. 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 Definitely. Okay, wow. So great, so great. Okay. Um, Sorcha, tell parents where they can learn more, find you, where do they find you, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
So I'm quite active on LinkedIn at the moment. It's kind of a contradiction seeing it's a social media platform, but it's the only one I will bear to share my work professionally. And I find that it's really informative. I always post, recent research that I've conducted on there. Um, I'm also developing some parent resources that I will be sharing on there too. So you can have a look. Really easy things like printing a little page off and you can stick it on your fridge, and it's like a little checklist. And you can go through, have we had a chat today about social media? Can we have screen-free dinners? And it's just something you can have a look visually, every day as you walk past. So you can find me on there. I also am developing a sort of certification body for social media platforms. So they sort of have to adhere to protecting younger users. And if they do, they get a little stamp of approval to show parents, yeah, they're looking out for their young kids. So you can definitely find my work online and on LinkedIn too. If you want to read some recent research I'm doing, you can go onto Google and have a look at sort of Google Scholar is a really good place to have a look at the latest research that I do. So yeah.
Wow, terrific.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much. Okay, before we go, parents, I want to just do a recap of, I like to do a little recap for parents that Sorcha shared with us. Okay, so the dangers of excessive use of social media is sleep issues, not sleeping enough, or not sleeping well, not sleeping deeply, and also anxiety. So, those two things we have to really monitor with our kids. And she suggested three things that are really, really important: connection. So, connecting with your kids about the social media. Like I always say, get into their world. We need to, as parents, get into their world. So, ask them questions about it. Say, what are you playing? Who are you playing with? um find out what like how much time they're spending on there, and but have the conversation with them so that they know that you know about it, and that you're curious and that you're trying to be protective of them. Second thing she said was boundaries. We have to put boundaries with it. I don't use definite boundaries with my youngest, but we get him out. We're going out for dinner, we're going for a walk, we're doing things. So he has a balanced life. He understands a balanced life, right? But that is a way you can set boundaries too, is you can just say, as a family, we're doing this, right? You're not going to be on your phone for all day, all afternoon, or whatever it is. Um, and information, share information with your children, right? And find
Yeah.
out more information about it, because knowledge is power, as Sorcha said. So we have to be informed, and we also have to inform our children of the dangers of excessive use of their social media and digital use. So I think I recapped that. Did I recap that okay?
Yeah, that was fantastic. That's everything that are the key things. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's really tough. You've got all this stuff that you have to do as a parent alone, and then you've got, you think maybe, oh, this isn't, it'll be fine. I know my child. They'll pull through. They've got a good support network, but sometimes they slip through the net, and it's really like, wow, it can be quite shocking. So just keep on top of it. And even if your child's into gaming, just game with them. If they let you,
Yes.
let them, get on the
Yes.
level, see what they're doing.
Yes.
That's the best way.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely. And also I just want to just before we go, I just want to warn parents with our girls. We have to be really, really mindful, because sometimes they get these ideas, these images, right? Like Sosha said, maybe not real. And then they start comparing themselves to those images or to those girls, right? So we
Yeah.
have to be careful with what they're exposed to, because in a young person's mind, they get influenced easily. And we have to be aware of that. Would you agree, Sorsha?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh wow. Especially young women. It's so
Yes.
important, to for them to know, hang on, I need to question that. Has there
Yeah.
been a filter put on here? Has there even
Yes.
been maybe surgery? Is that why they look that way? And I
Yes.
don't. Yeah,
Yes.
that narrative,
100%.
question it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This was such a good episode. Hope this was helpful for you, parents. And we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. I hope it was valuable and that you have some useful tools to use with your children. If this show blessed you or changed you in any way, I would appreciate a review on my podcast, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps you could even recommend our Masterful Parenting to your family and friends. Thank you so much, parents.